All right. I'd like to start off by saying Kata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Let Us Now Praise Famous Men. And pretty much, you brothers that's been around, you already know pretty much the scriptures where we're going to go to. But Lord's will, this will be a edifying lesson because if the Spirit allows, I would like to say a few words, of course, of great men in the past and great men in this time that the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai has risen back up. Some of them are back in the spirit world, like Elder Abba Bivens, King Masha, High Priest Shaiquab, so Lord's will, however the Spirit allows the lesson to go, we'll roll with it. But from time to time we have to reflect back on these things because what we are involved in is a legacy, and this legacy has many legends, stories, accounts of the inspiration of the Most High that He put upon men and what He caused them to do. Now everything is already, the great producer on high, which is Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, has already written out the blueprint, the script, and the men that He inspired, they're the ones that play the role out, and you have great men and you also have wicked men, and everybody played a part, in this, they played their role or their part in this movie. So this is Psalm 68:11. It says, "The Lord gave the word; great was the company of those that published it." So you had an innumerable amount of prophets that were responsible for writing down visions that the Lord showed them. And that was their job, to write these things down, to speak about these things, to warn Jake, and a lot of things that are written in the history are pretty much written for our admonition. It's written for our comfort. It's written for our faith. It's written to build us up. It's written to encourage us, to look and reflect upon these great men and the perils that they found themselves in and how the Lord delivered them out of all of those situations. This is the book of Romans 15:4. "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope." So these scriptures are comforting. This is the comforter. The comforter is the book, and it is the Spirit that comes with the book to be able to understand the comfort, the message, the mysteries of the book. So it gives us comfort when we read about these great men and the things that they endured and how the Lord delivered them out of many of those situations that they found themselves in, which is a beautiful thing. All right, so now we're just going to go straight to it. Jump around however the Spirit allows. So let's go right to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 44, and we're going to start right at the first verse. It says, "Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us." Why? Because that is a part of our job, of things that we are to do. Just bear with me 1 second while I get this precept. Just bear with me 1 second, like I said. bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to find this one precept. Okay, I was there. I was in a chapter, but I guess I overlooked it. This is the book of Job, chapter 4. No, it ain't chapter. Oh yeah, it's chapter 8. Okay. Um, Job 8 and 7. Though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end should should greatly increase. Yeah, and that's why it says the ending of a thing is better than the beginning. The latter end of this house shall be greater than the beginning. Because now we're coming to that time. So although we suffered these things and we've been low and we've been down and out, we've been in the worst parts of the city, worst parts of the world, the ghettos, the hoods, the barrios, and so on and so forth. Our latter end is going to be great. And the Lord had Baruch pen this down in Baruch, the 5th chapter. And that's a heavy chapter because that chapter shows how the Lord is going to raise Israel up and he was going to bring the nations down. And the way he was going to raise Israel up was by his word. Just to show you how powerful this word is. Just by the word of the Most High, man. All of this that you see is going on. That's that great power. That's that great influence. That great breath from the throne of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai that entered into these, all of us, the dead bones, and brought us back to life. When we were out there bugged out, that's why the Apostle Paul spoke of newness of life. We have the newness of life now, through that breath that came into us and gave us the understanding so that we could be born again. Gave that seed and fruit to our minds, to our understanding, to bring us back to life. That's a beautiful thing. So going back, it says Job 8 and 8, it says, for inquire. What does it mean to inquire? It means to ask. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age. What is the former age? The former times, the times of the past. And prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. So that's why we are to prepare ourselves to the search of our fathers, because we have to know where we came from to know where we're going. Like you have these Edomites now trying to explain away Deuteronomy 28 that doesn't fit the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. Those curses, this, that, and the other. They're trying to explain it away, but they can't. It's futile. You have this other devil that Vocab just did a live show with, breaking down what I forget what it was he was supposed to be breaking down to Vocab to make him understand prophecy. And then brother sent me this video earlier how that same devil went into the book of Revelation 13 and 10 and tried to explain that away as being from the Roman Empire, and how you're going to get wounded with the sword of the beast and this, that, the other. But he didn't. He did a Jesse Owens and a Hussein Bolt over the captivity part. He mentioned captivity, but he didn't go into that. He quickly just slid past that and just got to the point of the sword. So these devils, they're trying to. So this is why we have to search, our fathers, because the knowing, where you come from is going to determine where you're going. Because we know according to the scriptures that the Israelites are the only ones that's going to have the blessings of the kingdom of heaven and the salvation, and the nations are going to go into captivity like they had us in captivity. And eventually, after they serve out their sentence, they're going to get blessed. They're going to be straight, so to speak, but they will always be tributary to us. You see? But we've been the downtrodden. We've been the ones that have been in the lips of talkers and speaking, ill of us and calling us all different types of names and bywords and proverbs and all of that. We've been the ones at the bottom. So we're the ones that need the pampering. You see? So now it says, for inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers, for we are but of yesterday and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. That's right. That's why it said that there's no remembrance of former things. And we've been here many times. You know, that's why there's certain spirits, because the body is just a suit of clothing, there's certain spirits that link together. Though they never met each other, they just link together for some purpose or some reason. You know, like they knew themselves all their lives, even though they never met in this lifetime until that moment. But it's because the spirit never dies. The spirit is always here. It always comes back. It just comes back in a different suit of clothing. Right? It says, so let's go back now. Ecclesiastes 44:1. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us. The Lord hath wrought great glory by them through his great power. See? Through his great power from the beginning. So from the beginning of time, the Most High has wrought many great works by the prophets, by the great men of the Lord, by the leaders of Israel, by the Israelites. It says, such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned for their power. See? Because we were known as a nation of power. That's why you had the Acors and the different other nations that knew that once we were in favor with our power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, there was nothing they could do to stop us. But once we fell out of favor and upset the Most High, and the Most High turned his back on us, they knew that that hedge would be taken away, and that's when they could roll on us. And that's the reason why these so-called international bankers, these Amalekites, they push out all these different ads out there, commercials, where they show Jake eating a big ass sandwich with bacon on it and all kind of bullshit on it. Why? Because they know as long as Jake is in that state, the Most High is not going to have mercy, because a part of the prayer that King Solomon said, if they turn to this place and call upon thy name. That's a big move. It's a big part of it. And that's why I don't understand why people out there, you know, well, we know that they're blinded, but I don't understand why people out there would go so hard to push the name of the Lord away and say that the name doesn't matter. When the Lord is making a statement, he said the reason why he raised up Pharaoh is to show his greatness, so that his name could be known throughout the four corners of the earth. So it's different now. The Lord said he doesn't change. You know, that's going into another topic, but that's you know, that's something right there. It says, such as did bear rule in their kingdom, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding, and declaring prophecies. Because it's all about prophecy, prophecy, prophecy. Doesn't matter how much you don't like it. It's all about prophecy. That's why, you know, the majority of our teachings are what? The prophecies that are coming to pass, and that will come to pass. It says, leaders of the people by their counsels and by their knowledge of learning meet for the people, wise and eloquent in their instructions. See? So now, let's go from there to the same book, Ecclesiastes, chapter 10. We're going to start at the first verse. It says, a wise judge will instruct his people. See? And that's why the Lord set up leaders to instruct the rest of Israel, because Israel, the scriptures say that they're like blind sheep. You know, they're going from this mountain to that mountain, to this idol to that idol, from this religion to that religion, from this train of thought to that train of thought. They're lost sheep. They don't know what to do. So they need leaders to guide them in the right direction. That's what the Most High said, I will give you pastors according to my heart that will feed you with knowledge and understanding. And that's what Yahweh Shai told Peter, if you love me, Peter, feed my sheep and feed my lambs. It says, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. See, the government of a prudent man, of a wise man, is well ordered. Why? Because he has the proper instructions. It says, As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And that's why the international bankers, beginning with the Rothschilds, they're corrupt, and their officers and governors and leaders that they put up to officiate their business are also corrupt. They're pedophiles, those are pedophiles. They drink blood, those drink blood. No, they commit all type of heinous acts, they commit the heinous acts. Why? Because they are being groomed by these international bankers. That's what these colleges are for. These colleges are nothing more than there's a word for it, I can't think of it right now, but it's like when you have a scout that goes to different colleges or different high schools to look for the next major NFL players, you know, and that's pretty much what these colleges are for, is to groom the next world leaders, you know, to push the agenda of the so-called elite. It says, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. An unwise king destroyeth his people. And that's why America will be destroyed, because the ones that are ruling it are unwise kings, although they're wiser than Daniel. It says, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. It says, the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. All right, and that's the main point. So now going back to Ecclesiastes 44:5, it says, such as found out musical tunes and recited verses in writing, rich men furnished with ability, because you had what? Abraham was a rich man, Job was a rich man, Lot was a rich man, King David, King Solomon, you know, the kings of Israel, they were rich men, you know. It says, living peaceably in their habitations. It says, all these were honored in their generations and were the glory of their time. See? So in every time period, the Lord sent out his prophets, and they were glorified by the works that they did. That's why when you go back into the scriptures, you can read about the King Davids and the King Solomons and the Isaiahs and the Jeremiahs and the Ezekiels and the Malachi's and the Obadiahs, you know, and the Peters and the Johns and the James, so on and so forth, of the great works that they did for the Lord and how the Lord delivered them out of many different situations. Some of them glorified the Lord by horrible deaths, but that was because that was a seal for them for this time. You see? Because now the reward is coming. It says, there be of them that have left a name behind them, that their praise might be reported. That's why we're still speaking about the righteousness of Job. You know, the Apostle Paul quoted Job, you know, and the righteousness of Job and the patience of Job. And we're still speaking about Job to this day, and the great works that he did for the Lord, and the great faith that he had, and the tribulations that he went through. It says, and some there be which have no memorial. See, and that's dealing with the wicked. It says, who are perished as though they had never been, and they have a bad name, but that was their lot. It says, and are become as though they had never been born, and their children after them. But these were merciful men, whose righteousness hath not been forgotten. And that's why at the beginning of this, it says, let us now praise famous men, because they're worthy to be praised. It says, you know, and praise is different from worship. You can praise somebody for their ability, but when you start bowing down to them and, you know, praying to them, that's worship. When you praise somebody, that's not worship. You know, praising and lauding somebody for their ability is not worshiping them. Okay? Just like, you know, when we talk about King David and Elijah and Elias and all of them, Elisha and all of them. It says, with their seed, then, now this is heavy right here when I read this, with their seed shall continually remain a good inheritance, and their children are within the covenant. See? It says, their seed standeth fast, and their children for their sakes. Because the Lord can deliver a man and his whole family just based off of the works of the man, if the Lord deems it so. But just because you're a prophet or a righteous man or you do great works does not mean that your whole family is going to be delivered. It all depends on the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, who he's going to deliver, who he's not going to deliver. It says, their seed shall remain forever, and their glory shall not be blotted out. You see? And in the kingdom of heaven, man, it's going to be great. Because how great is the kingdom of heaven, and how great are some of these men that the actual kingdom itself and the particular building is going to have the names of the apostles written on it. You see? It says, the bodies are buried in peace, but their name liveth forevermore. Yeah, and some of these men, great men, perished, and when they perished, they went back into the grave. You had certain Israelite leaders that ridiculed them, mocked them, talked shit about them, said wicked things about them, not considering that all this stuff is written in the scriptures. This is just to show you how heavy this is, man, because like Apostle Gabar went into a lesson not too long ago about this being a genie, and this genie, you have to rub it in order to get the wishes, so to speak, the benefits from it. But the Lord can open it up and he could close it. You have men that know scriptures, they read certain scriptures, but then after a certain time, the Lord took that away from them. That's why King David prayed, take not thy Holy Spirit away from me. Because this is written, Isaiah 57:1. The righteous perisheth, and no man layeth it to heart. And merciful men are taken away, none considering that the righteous is taken away from the evil to come. You see? Here it is, they ridicule these men, but these men were up in age. Can you imagine, if they were still alive right now? I mean, they would be, well into their hundreds, which, that is possible for men to live that long. They wouldn't be ready for all this, unless the Lord put the Spirit in them to strengthen them. Like with Moses. When Moses died, he died in his full strength. It says, he shall enter into peace and shall rest in their beds, each one walking in his uprightness. And that's when we read Revelation 6, you have the souls of them that suffered these things that are waiting up in the heavens till the Lord come and avenge, our blood on these devils, and set the kingdom of Israel back up into power. So going back, when I say Israel, I'm talking about the real Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, and the rest of the scattered sheep that wherever they may be. I'm not talking about those fake, phony frauds. Back in Ecclesiastes 44:15, the people will tell of their wisdom, and the congregation will show forth their praise. That's right, and that's why we still, when we go to the scriptures, we bring in our prophecies, and then we go on to different examples in the history, and talking about King David and his mighty men and how great power they had, and talking about the different prophets and great men and the things that they did and things that they prophesied about. It says, Enoch pleased the Lord and was translated, being an example of repentance to all generations. So what happened to Enoch in that translation, that's what's going to happen right now. That's what the apostle spoke about, this great change that's coming in the twinkling of an eye, and the elect will be raised up into the chariots. But the ones that's going to go into the chariot first is going to be the ones that come out of the grave, that died in his truth. All right? It says, Noah was found perfect and righteous in time of wrath. He was taken in exchange for the world. Because the scriptures say, I'm not sure if I'll be able to find that. Maybe I'll be able to find it. Let me see. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, you should be able to find it. Right here. So let's read this. Well, let me read the scripture. Proverbs 21:18. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the transgressor for the upright. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the transgressor for the upright. We read here, Ecclesiastes 44:17. Noah was found perfect and righteous in the time of wrath. He was taken in exchange for the world. So the world was given as a ransom to be destroyed so that Noah could be saved. It says, therefore was he left as a remnant unto the earth. And he was a represent, those 8 souls that were delivered, that was a representation of the elect at that time. It says, when the flood came, an everlasting covenant was made with him, that all flesh should perish no more by the flood. See? And that covenant was what? Was the so-called rainbow, which these devils use as a symbol of an abomination. A symbol that the alphabet people use. It says, Abraham was a great father of many people. In glory was there none like unto him. That's right, because he was very rich in gold and silver and cattle and so on and so forth. He had so many riches that his shepherds and the shepherds of Lot were fighting each other or arguing with each other because there wasn't enough room for their cattle to graze. So they had to part ways. That's how great the riches they had. It says, who kept the law of the Most High and was in covenant with him. He established a covenant in his flesh, which was a circumcision. And when he was proved, he was found faithful. And how was that proven going? Or how did that proven happen? When the Lord told him to sacrifice his son Isaac unto the Lord. And the Lord stopped him just before he did it. He was on his way, boom, to do it. And the Lord said, nope, now I know that you won't withhold nothing from me. In so many words. It says, therefore he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed. Why? Because Israel would be scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth. And eventually, in process of time, like I said, once these nations serve their captivity and all that, then they'll be blessed because they'll get blessings. They'll be set up, as a power among themselves, but they will still always be tributary to us because that's what they were created for in the first place, to be tributary to us, to the nation of Israel. And that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause him to inherit from sea to sea and from the river unto the utmost part of the land. And that was the land of the blessing that the Lord gave to Abraham's seed, singular, which is the nation of Israel. And he didn't promise that land to everybody, just to the nation of Israel. So these people in plantation Christianity trying to push that all people receive this blessing, no, all people did not receive this blessing, only the nation of Israel. It says, with Isaac did he establish likewise, because remember, Abraham had more than one son, but the covenant the promise went from Abraham to Isaac. It says, with Isaac did he establish likewise for Abraham, his father's sake, the blessing of all men and the covenant. Now, did all men come out of Isaac? No. Because the blessing was to go from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. And in the seed of Jacob, all of those children, that's where the blessing was going to rest. It says that made it rest upon the head of Jacob. He acknowledged him in his blessing and gave him an heritage and divided his portions among the 12 tribes did he part them. So it's very specific, very clear who the Lord is dealing with. Now let's go into the 45th chapter. It says, now he brought out of him a merciful man, which found favor in the sight of all flesh, even Moses, beloved of the Most High, and men, whose memorial is blessed. Yeah, because through Moses, the Lord did many great works. He brought the 10 plagues of Egypt upon them. He delivered the nation of Israel from, Egypt. He brought them through the wilderness. And at the very end, the Lord showed Moses the promised land, but wasn't able to make it there with them because, the scriptures say he spoke unadvisedly because of these hard-head, bonehead jakes out here. But eventually he's going to get it. He's going to get the kingdom eventually anyway. Because he was the scriptures say he was the most meekest man, ever on the planet. And the Most High loved Moses, He loves him still. It says he made him like to the glorious saints and magnified him so that his enemies stood in fear of him. Yeah, because the Lord gave Moses power. He told Moses, I will make you a god to Pharaoh. And the enemies feared him. When that deliverance came in, all the enemies of Israel were shook. And that's the same thing is going to happen again this time. Because it's going to be made manifest by the power of heaven, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, who his people are. And who he's with. And what his name is. And what the name of his son is. And we have the faith that what we're teaching is the actual correct doctrine of the scriptures. And we've been inspired by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai through the Holy Spirit to teach this. And that's why all of these different heathens are trying to stop this work, including Jakes. And when you go back into history, you had wicked men among Israel that sided with the enemy to come against Israel, to slay Israel. It says, by his words he caused the wonders to cease, which was all the plagues, and he made him glorious in the sight of kings, and gave him a commandment for his people, and showed him part of his glory. He sanctified him in his faithfulness and meekness, and chose him out of all men. So eventually Moses will get the kingdom. And this kingdom is going to be far greater than anything that's ever been on the planet. The Lord said, I have not seen neither ear heard the things which the Most High has prepared for them that love him. It says, he made him to hear his voice, and brought him into the dark cloud, and gave him commandments before his face, even the law of life and knowledge. See, the law of life and knowledge, that he might teach Jacob his covenant and Israel his judgments. Because the Most High wanted to set Jake straight. That's why the Israelites are called what? The saints. Saints or holy means what? Means set apart. What set us apart from the other nations? The law, statutes, and commandments that the Most High Yahweh gave to Moses to give to Yasha Allah. That's it. Nothing can be added to it, neither anything taken away from it. He exalted Aaron, an holy man like unto him, even his brother of the tribe of Levi. An everlasting covenant he made with him, and gave him the priesthood among the people. He beautified him with comely ornaments, and clothed him with a robe of glory. He put upon him perfect glory, and strengthened him with rich garments, with breeches, with a long robe, and the ephod. And he compassed him with pomegranates, and with many golden bells around about, that as he went, there might be a sound, and a noise made that might be heard in the temple, for a memorial to the children of his people. With an holy garment, with gold and blue silk and purple, the work of the embroiderer, with a breastplate of judgment, and with Urim and Thummim. With twisted scarlet, the work of the cunning workman, with precious stones graven like seals, and set in gold, the work of the jeweler, with a writing engraved for a memorial after the number of the tribes of Israel. And you have, Jakes out there that are craftsmen, that are very good, in carving things out and all that. That's a special skill, special gift that the Most High gave these men, because they had to make all these engravings and cuttings in the wood and in the different metals, and gold, to be able to set stones in it. That's a special skill that the Lord gave. It says, he set a crown of gold upon the meat tree, wherein was engraved holiness and ornament of honor, a costly work, the desire of the eyes, goodly and beautiful. Before him there were none such, neither did ever any stranger put them on, but only his children and his children's children perpetually. Yeah, because you had an order after that. There was a priesthood, and the high priesthood could only go through that order, through the order of Aaron. You know, you couldn't just have anybody be the priest, the high priest. It says, their sacrifice shall be wholly consumed every day, twice continually. Moses consecrated him and anointed him with holy oil. And we read in Psalms 133rd chapter how that oil ran down the long garment, the long beard of Aaron that went all the way down to the hem of his garments. So he had a long beard. It says, he chose him out of all men living to offer sacrifices to the Lord, incense and sweet savor, for a memorial, to make reconciliation for his people. And that's why we have what? The Day of Atonement. That's why you had the high priests and the different priests that would offer the certain wave offerings and the heave offerings, and the sacrifices, and the sin offerings, and the peace offerings, so on and so forth. And that was what the priesthood of the Levitical priesthood was all about. But when you go back to before the Lord really established that, and you go back into the law as it's written, the whole nation was already promised to be a nation of kings and priests, meaning the men. Because that was going to be the second covenant that the Lord was going to set out. The Lord already knew what was going on. He made the provisions in the scriptures, for everything and the way it was going to go down. Salakia. It goes on to say, he gave unto him his commandments and authority in the statutes of judgment, that he should teach Jacob the testimonies and inform Israel in his laws. See, so that's who he gave it to. Now reading on, it says, strangers conspired together against him. Now this is dealing with Corey, Abiram, and Dathan, and maligned him in the wilderness. Yeah, because they were looking at them like, look, man, you taking too much on you, because they wanted to be the dudes, they wanted to be a partaker of the leadership and push Moses and Aaron to the side. Same thing, you got the same shit going on today. You have individuals that just Johnny come latelys, and all of a sudden they want to be the leaders of Israel, never considering what happened in the past to Dathan, Corey, and Abiram. It says, even the men that were of Dathan's and Abiram's side and the congregation of Corey, with fury and wrath. Yeah, because they were coming in that gangster spirit. It says, this the Lord saw, see, and it displeased him, just like it displeased him when Aaron and Miriam were speaking against Moses, his servant. He saw this. He said, "Oh yeah, y'all want to get down like that? All right." It says, and in the wrath, and in his wrathful indignation were they consumed. He did wonders upon them to consume them with the fiery flame. Yeah, because the earth opened up, it swallowed them, and they were pretty much finished. Excuse me. It says, but he made Aaron more honorable, and gave him an heritage, and divided unto him the first fruits of the increase. Especially he prepared bread in abundance, for they eat of the sacrifices of the Lord, which gave unto him and his seed. Howbeit in the land of the people he had no inheritance. Why? Because they had the suburbs. They didn't have an inheritance among the other tribes, because they were the priests. It says, neither had he any portion among the people, for the Lord himself is his portion and inheritance. That's why the name lawyer or Levi, lawyer, means joined to me. How were they joined to the Lord? Because they were his priests, his ministers, to minister to the nation of Israel. And that's how the nation of Israel was able to get close to the Most High and receive forgiveness whenever they went off because you had the priesthood and the priests that were to go between the father and Israel. It says the third in glory is Phineas, the son of Eleazar, because he had zeal in the fear of the Lord and stood up with good courage of heart. And when the people were turned back and made reconciliation for Israel, see? And this is why when we're reading the curses, it says, and no man shall buy you, no man shall save you, no man shall redeem you, no man shall be able to reconcile you. That's what it means. It ain't talking about, oh yeah, I don't you selling yourself as a slave? Nah, that's all right. I don't want to buy you. It's bullshit, man. That's something that these devils pulled out of the crack of their funky ass. It says, therefore was there a covenant of peace made with him, that he should be the chief of the sanctuary of his people, and that he and his posterity should have the dignity of the priesthood forever, according to the covenant made with David, son of Jesse of the tribe of Judah, that the inheritance of the king should be to his posterity alone. See, it's supposed to be his posterity, meaning their children, their sons after them. So the inheritance of Aaron should so the inheritance of Aaron should also be unto his seed. Yeah, because you have to be of that particular line to be high priest. And Aaron didn't make it to the promised land because he made the people naked. So what happened? Moses took him to the mountain, and in the mountain he stripped him of his garments, put him on Eleazar, and Aaron gave up the spirit. And it continued in that line. The Most High give you wisdom in your heart to judge his people in righteousness, that their good things be not abolished, and that their glory may endure forever. Let's read one more chapter. This is Ecclesiasticus 46:1. Yahushai, the son of Nave, was valiant in the wars, and was a successor of Moses in prophecies. See, because he was also a prophet, and he succeeded Moses. He took over the leadership position when Moses went back to the spirit world. It says, who according to his name, Yahushai, which means he is a deliverer, was made great for the saving of the elect of the Most High. That's right, because remember, not all Israel got to the promised land. All of the ones that were brought out of Egypt, they all died in the wilderness. It was only the children that were born to them that made it to the promised land, but they themselves didn't make it. To show you how serious the Most High is. How great glory gat he when he did lift up his hands and stretch out his sword against the cities. Yeah, he took down Jericho. He took down many different strongholds of the Canaanites. It says, who before him so stood to it? Who before him so stood to it? For the Lord himself brought his enemies unto him. Yeah, it was the Lord that was bringing these devils down. And the Lord could have took them all out like that quickly. But the Lord told Israel that he's not going to take them all these heathens out at once, because if he did that, the beasts of the field will multiply and destroy Jake. You know? So he left them there to pretty much keep the wild beasts at bay. And then eventually, once Israel got big enough, they eventually got rid of most of the Canaanites out of that land. Did not the sun go back by his means? Yep. And was not one day as long as two? That's right. It says he called upon the Most High Lord when the enemies pressed upon him on every side, and the great Lord Yahweh Shem Shai heard him. And with hailstones of mighty power, he made the battle to fall violently upon the nations. And that's what he's going to do now, but this time it's going to be in the form of these missiles. Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down. And in the descent of Beth Horon, he destroyed them that resisted, that the nations might know all their strength, because he fought in the sight of the Lord, and he followed the mighty one. Yeah, man. Woo. In the time of Moses also he did a work of mercy he and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, in that they withstood the congregation and withheld the people from sin and appeased the wicked murmuring. Yeah, because they were the only two that brought in a good report that said that, yo, these people, they are food, man. They're ready to be plucked out of that land. You know, this place is ready for us. All we gotta do is just roll up on them and just take it. But everybody else is like, no, they're too big, they're too strong, they're too powerful. You know, we can't win. You know. It says, and of 600,000 people on foot, the two were preserved to bring them into the heritage. Yeah, it was just them two that entered of the original people that came out of Egypt. Man. And that right there represents the elect, those two men that made it to the promised land out of all of those people. That just show you the small number of the elect. Even unto the land that floweth with milk and honey. The Lord gave strength also unto Caleb, which remained with him unto his old age, so that he entered upon the high places of the land, and his seed obtained it for an heritage. That all the children of Israel might see that it's good to follow the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. That's right, because all the men that were faithful to the Lord, eventually he gave them rewards, but he's going to really give the reward this time. That's why we read Hebrews 11 chapter. And in Hebrews 11 chapter, you know, that goes into the faith of these men and how they had great faith, but they didn't receive, you know, their reward back then, because it's coming in this time. It says, and concerning the judges, every one by name, and you can read the book of Judges, whose heart went not a whoring, nor departed from the Lord, let their memory be blessed, because they're leaders also. Let their bones flourish out of their place, and let the name of them that were honored be continued upon their children. Yeah, and you can read about that. Samuel, the prophet of the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, beloved of his Lord, established a kingdom and anointed princes over his people. Yep. You had Saul, you had King David. By the law of the Lord, he judged the congregation, and the Lord had respect unto Jacob. By his faithfulness, he was found a true prophet, and by his word, he was known to be faithful in vision. He called upon the mighty Lord when his enemies pressed upon him on every side, when he offered the suckling lamb. And the Lord thundered from heaven, and with a great noise made his voice to be heard, and he destroyed the rulers of the tyrants, of the Tyrians, and all the princes of the Philistines. And before his long sleep, he made protestation in the sight of the Lord, and his anointed, I have not taken any man's goods so much as a shoe, and no man did accuse him. And after his death he prophesied and answered the king, and showed the king his end, meaning King Saul, and lifted up his voice from the earth in prophecy to blot out the wicked of the people. That's right, man. You know, so these are some of the great men, and there's more chapters to it. You know, there's more chapters to it, but you know, we're gonna stop it there. And if you brothers want to read some more, all you gotta do is pick up in chapter 47 and continue reading on. You know, and the same way you see that these men are being spoken of and lauded, you know, for their great works. You know, the men that make it out of this tribulation, the men that make it out of this destruction, this devastation that are delivered in this time, their names will be great in the kingdom of heaven also. They will be written. You know, all of these acts that you see happening will be written of in the kingdom of heaven, just like we read about these great men, you know, that are spoken of right now, and we know them by name. So the men that make it out of here will be written about in the kingdom of heaven, and the wicked too. They're going to be written about in the kingdom of heaven. You'll be able to read just like you read today about Job and David and Moses, you know, and Aaron and the Levites and the Judites and so on and so forth. You know, so let us now praise famous men. You know, I pray that this lesson was edifying. Shalom to the Akim, the sincere Akim, the sincere Akwath out there. You know, the water for all the comments and scriptures you brothers put up. You know, Salaka, if I don't always acknowledge that, you know, but regardless if I acknowledge it or not, the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua acknowledges it. You know, he sees your hard work. You know, he sees all of our works. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.